welcome guests and everything that's going on out in cyberspace. We'd like to welcome you to Talented Universe on this, oh my goodness, it's already the 4th of June in 2025. I still can't believe it. But you are looking at our special review show, Season 1, Episode 3 of The Librarians, the next chapter, and the Ghost Train.
Woo.
Now, I remember when I saw that preview for that Ghost Train, I went, ooh, this is going to be interesting. And Greg had the same reaction. Didn't you, Greg?
Oh, I did.
But I would also like to welcome Bobby Nash. Bobby, you've been guests many times on our shows.
Yes.
But
Thanks
I
for
am
having me
pleased
back.
that you are here for a co-host. And Marcia is here with us again. From last week, she decided to join us again.
You betcha.
Mm-hmm. So, as I said, this is And the Ghost Train. I am working on getting the director for this episode, which was we call him Taki because he's been on our show several times. But he is busy directing his own film right now that he's doing.
Oh, wow.
And so he said he would come on as soon as he could to talk about episode 3, and he also directed episode 9. So chances are we're going to have him so we can talk about 3 and 9. So in about 6 weeks, we'll have him on. If we have him on earlier, even better. But I'm gonna be mean to Marcia. And Marcia, I'm gonna let you start and say, what was your favorite thing that you remember from this episode? What got your attention?
Favorite thing? That is truly unfair. My favorite thing.
I know.
My one of my favorite things was the effects that they used for the train as it was traveling and the time bubble around it. I really liked that a lot. I thought that was well done and different.
And different, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do Bobby next.
Okay, I'm a big believer in character moments. I love a good character moment. And there's a great moment in here because I didn't think they were going to do it this quick, where Vikram pulls a cell phone out and is using it. Where he is learning.
He's learning.
He is acclimating himself to the time he's in.
Very quickly.
Yes. And so seeing him, even though he isn't quite up to speed, seeing him pull out a cell phone and use it, I thought was a wonderful little character moment, especially by the fact that they didn't overly draw attention to it.
He just did it.
He just did it. And it's like, but for me as an audience, I was like, oh, okay, I see what he's learning. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I like seeing the characters, because the cliche kind of trope to do would be spend a whole season making fun of the fact that he doesn't know anything about this century. And they're kind of getting that out of the way.
They're not
right,
doing that.
Right. They're not. He is acclimating. He is, and that's really part of his character and part of his job as the librarian is learning to deal with weird situations anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great character bit, and so that part really stuck out to me.
Greg.
Oh, there were so many good things.
One
of the things I enjoyed, I love, of course I'm a big, art and, design fan when it comes to these types of shows. So, the train itself, it didn't really grab me as 1970s. It was probably looking more like, 30s or 40s, with the, the old style luggage, chests and stuff in the back. But I loved an opportunity to look around the library when they were running around inside the annex, the new annex, finding books and trying to spy all the little things in corners and nooks and crannies and stuff. So for me, yeah, that was my absolute favorite thing about the show. The show had a lot of great things going for it.
Yeah, and we got someone in the chat room. Linda says she agrees with you, Marcia, about the blue bubble around the train. I mean, and then she said she also, which was kind of cool actually, blasting through the shed at full speed.
Yes.
That was kind of funny. Oh yeah, it's like, oh, nothing major, you know. We don't count the trees. And then, oh, that was a barn or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of funny.
That was a great way to ramp up the danger too, because while they were just ghosts and there was no interaction,
right,
it gave a little, you know, it went from being just, oh, this is just something we can deal with, to, oh, now it's a problem, you know.
Yeah, that field is real, and it is making things go boom. Yeah, that does make a difference. I think mine. Yeah, see, I made that hard question for you, Marcia, because I couldn't decide on one either. So I said, I'll let everybody else decide. Then I'll pick out one of my other ones. Things. This way. I hate to say it, but I really enjoyed when the two girls were going to look for the spy, you know, at the old folks' home. And, you know, they go in and they look and she's made the bed up and everything. And then they don't know what's going on. And she comes behind them and just whips them. I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
That was very English Spy.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
It was almost reminiscent of the Kingsman movies.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. You're right. But I don't know. But people in the chat room that are out there, I see there's several people out there. If you've got something of one of your favorite scenes, please post it in the chat room. And if we can see it, sometimes we can't see everything. So if we can't see it, we will throw it up there for you. Is there anything else that stands out, Marcia? Because you had other things. I
have other things.
Yeah, well, go ahead and throw out one, and maybe we can discuss that a little bit.
Well, starting with the open, I like that they were progressing as a team. They'd be making room, moving boxes, and Vikram is getting upset. You know, this is my
real
inner space,
or not real.
Real or not real. And what did they say? Real or not real? What did Charlie tell him?
It's
a bear.
It was a bear that talks. That's not real.
Not real. Remember that, folks. Bear that talks, not real. It's my old friend Paddington.
See, I was thinking Yogi.
Yeah.
So starting right there, they're making space, you know, and I figured with the next episode, we're going to see changes in the set. We're going to see
probably, yeah,
stuff, and we're going to, you know, everybody's going to have their little space to sit or whatever they're going to do. And I like that it's continuing, even though it's an episodic kind of show, there's an overarching story too. And I like that. And Charlie was feeling left out, and we knew that was going to be one of the little subplots. She was feeling kind of, nobody likes me. They only, you know, and I was looking forward to seeing where that was going to lead during this particular episode. There's more stuff too, but
yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I appreciated the fact that because the other show really didn't do this as much, where they're bringing in computers, and they are that. So there is that modern with the ancient stuff in the annex. Plus, I kept waiting for her to say, you know, I own this castle. When he's like, this is mine.
This is mine.
Well, you know, and I'll just let Bobby doesn't know this, but the others I have not seen the first shows, so I'm the newbie in this. I know all Dean's other shows, but this is new to me, so that's my added voice there, because I saw that Dean had posted Easter eggs. He wanted to see where people were finding Easter eggs. So I don't know if you were planning on talking
So-
about those, but I'm kind of interested in seeing
Yeah.
if you saw Easter eggs.
Yeah. So
relating.
is this the first episode you've seen, or just the first series you've seen?
This is the first series.
Series.
I've
Okay.
seen the episodes.
Okay, so you haven't seen the movies or
No,
the
she
Librarians.
didn't. No.
Okay. I don't think you have to have seen them.
That's one reason I was glad she was joining us, because
Yeah.
I wanted to have someone's take that had not seen the original, because I've told several people I really don't think you need to see the original to enjoy this one.
Yeah, it's little bits, and especially in the first episode, since Stone is there.
Yes.
And he's mentioning names that if you haven't seen the others, they don't
that wouldn't mean
anything
anything to you.
But yeah, I don't think you would be lost. I mean, I'm guessing you're not lost.
No, not at all.
Just the 3 episodes, because the setups they're really good at explaining the setup in the first episode, and we kind of go from there. I mean, for those of us that had seen the others, it was cool seeing those and hearing those mentions. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it hurts, or if you haven't. So I like the fact that they've made a show that is accessible to new viewers.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea if the Librarians or the movies are streaming anywhere. They might be, but I don't know that.
I believe they are. I believe they are.
I assume they're all on the Electric.
Yeah, on the Electric app. Yeah.
But I didn't know if any of the other. Because I will say, Marsha, if you do enjoy this, you will probably enjoy them as well. Very similar feel. I would say start with the movies. The movies are just one librarian, but the movies are fun. But yeah, they've managed to build quite a nice world between the 3 various iterations of this franchise. And so yeah, so if we see some of the other characters again, I don't think it'll, other than just not knowing who they are, I don't think it'll hurt that you don't know them. So like, I'm assuming Stone didn't confuse you, but you're just like,
no, because they explained it. Because
they explained who he is,
and that was very aware of them and purposeful. And so I am enjoying it from the very first. I've seen each episode more than once.
Yeah, and they have a similar feel. I mean, the tone of the shows are pretty similar. It's the same. There's mystical stuff and things like that, and it's a very fun, kind of playful tone to the shows. With running around, and it's not overly serious, and there's a lot of fun to be had. And I think they've struck a nice balance with that, because you could tell this story without the fun and still tell a good story. But I love the lighthearted bits and the fun running and chasing and jumping, and so it's good stuff.
I like the made up names. the made up, the Cauca Sylvia. And it did occur to me, was that a real place? But of course it wasn't.
Right. Yeah. But and if based on, like I said, based on what I've seen before too, I assume that we'll continue to get these kind of weird type of problems they're going to face. But I also think the fact that they're filming in Belgrade gives them stories and places to set stories that perhaps the other series didn't, which was filmed in Portland. Yeah. I mean, they still played, we're going to England, we're going here, we're going,
but they filmed in Portland.
But they filmed in Portland.
Oh,
okay. There is something you get from the architecture of Belgrade that you don't get in Portland or any other place like that. There that architecture, I mean, you can fake it, but they don't have to. So they're able to go in to some of these locations where they have filmed have just been absolutely stunningly gorgeous. Yeah. The theater in last week's
we talked about that last week, and Dean said on one of his interviews that he was so pleased that they allowed him to go into that theater and film. I mean,
and the castle in the first episode.
Oh yeah, I mean all of that stuff, and it was just like, it just gave it a whole new dimension.
But it's one of those things too, because we've, especially, when you've watched TV for so long, we do kind of get to noticing things. Like, I immediately know if something's been filmed in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I immediately know if something's been filmed here in Atlanta because I recognize, even though they're playing them as and that's not a bad thing, but this is giving me something. I don't recognize any of this.
Yeah.
So it's got this fresh feeling that I might not have had they filmed it in Portland.
Yeah. And
Again,
I mean,
not that there's anything wrong with Portland. It's,
Yeah, but I mean, I have the same thing when they say things are filmed in DC, and I look and I say, it is not filmed in DC. There's no way there's anything like that.
Yeah.
But but you just get used to it. But as I have the same feeling as I am just so excited to see all these new backdrops and everything, and then they're been able to go out to these places and film.
I think you also you're going to get other things too, because you're getting actors to play the villains or the other characters that are not people we see all the time, because they are hiring local.
Yeah, unless you watch The Ark and you've watched.
Sure, right.
But you watched Outpost, then you say, I've seen them before. But hey, right. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. But it is giving you some different actors that you might not have seen.
Yes.
Elsewhere.
Yes, so, and which is nice. Which is nice, and give them an opportunity to get out there and spread their wings.
Well, I like that in this episode they split the team apart, sort of.
Yes.
So you had
boys and girls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like. What did you think about the lunch with Lysa and Charlie?
I liked it. I think because they are the outsiders of this. One doesn't believe in magic, and the other is like not wanting to screw up being there.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I think they're kind of the two that, because the guys are just like, holy crap, magic, holy crap, monsters, holy crap, ghosts, and I think this gives it, but I love character beats. And so getting to see the characters spend time together, getting to see these friendships and these relationships evolve. And also we get it on the train when the guys are talking. There's a couple of those moments where they're talking about things, where he starts to realize, oh, you left somebody behind. And he's like, I'm like 200 years out of my own time. I've left everybody behind. I've lost everybody. These are great little character moments that I think start to, as we go along the show, we'll see these relationships grow. And I think they have, not just this show, but the other shows that they do as well. They do this very well with building those relationships gradually and making them feel real, not just throwing them together and goes, because we say these two are going to be friends, they're going to be friends. It kind of comes through in this as the stories unfold. And so I think that works really well.
Yeah. You want to go through Easter eggs? The big Easter egg that just got me was during the train, and like what Linda says here, she's talking about Charlie's driving like a madman and trying to get to the train on time. The music for all that, it was Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, the previous Librarian show used the Doctor Who theme.
Well, Dean is a huge Doctor Who.
And he's a huge Doctor Who fan. He told us, he said, "You see a lot of stuff," and I went, "Oh my goodness, this is Doctor Who." One of the Doctor Who things that they've been using recently on the new Doctor Who's, and it was like, "Oh, this is hysterically funny."
Yep. That was good. I liked that. That was the only one I know that I saw that might have been an Easter egg, but I did appreciate a lot of the story beats that were in there. Because there were a lot of places I was like, I could see the show doing this. Oh, they didn't do that. Okay, they surprised me. Like I fully expected at the very end that I forget her name, but the agent, because she goes on the train and she gets young again. I expected it to end with her being young again.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, because then she can go have adventures, or you know, and then at the end she's back to
She turned back.
how we found her. And so I was surprised. I was expecting kind of that stuff, but and I don't know if it's an Easter egg because it's just in this episode, but I love the fact that when the train crashes into the statue, it's the statue of the bad guy that was on the train.
Yeah.
I love that. That was just awesome. And they don't make a point to
No,
somebody
no.
say anything, but it's clearly him.
No, that was fun. Go ahead,
I
Greg.
definitely thought that the umbrella move was an homage to like the Avengers and
Mhm.
Kingsman.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Yeah.
Steed and Peel mostly. Yeah, when I first saw it, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. And but other than that, even on the second watch, I was like looking for like little references, in places. Um, unfortunately, I don't really remember a lot of the original Librarians episodes, but like a couple things that stood out in the library that I noticed were there was a dinosaur skull, and then there was a like a model ship, and I'm like, if they hadn't done that story in the original Librarians, we're gonna probably get a good story on a ship, and
Yeah.
that's probably the ship.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were good about that with the old show, with like like you said, things would be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 episodes later, that's important for
Yes.
something. Yeah. Because I imagine as a set builder too, building the library that's got all this stuff, I imagine that if you were to do a set tour, it's packed with
Well,
little.
Dean said that when we spoke
Yeah.
to him, and so every episode where they're in the library, I'm like, you know, trying to pay attention to the story, but at the same time, I'm like trying to look at all the little things.
All the things behind the characters. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes they repopulate things from other shows. Because,
Yeah.
like, the dinosaur head was in an episode of Leverage. And so
Okay.
so sometimes you get little things, oh,
That
it's,
kind of counts as an Easter egg, doesn't it?
I guess, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
sure.
does. Yeah.
Because he
So,
did say, I mean, there would be references all over the place, so I'm looking for like Stargate stuff and,
mhm.
No,
original Librarian stuff and, little
that'll be
weird, quirky
fun.
things.
Yeah. Right, because the annex, the beauty of the annex is you don't have to build that big librarian set that's behind Gregor there. But they're still connected to it. So there's nothing to say that he can't run in there, and if they need the Spear of Destiny,
It comes to them.
because they're in there,
Mhm.
So there's nothing to say we can't down the road go into the library proper. And that would be pretty cool.
That spirit gets around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of cool things. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in the library. So,
Can we talk about a little bit of the plot itself? About
Of course.
Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, one thing. Well, yeah, I have my notes, but I can jump all over. King Cabot, when they were talking about his paranoia and how he had bulletproof sheets, that just stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, bulletproof sheets? What?
In case you get
What?
shot.
yeah.
In case you get shot.
What are
that
they made out of?
Yeah. But that makes perfect sense too for a tyrant.
Do you-
You know,
Say that
I
again?
imagine he has food tasters and
yeah,
yeah.
they mentioned that.
Yeah,
Food
and so
tasters.
because he is such a tyrant that there's always someone
Everybody
out
wants
to
him
get him.
dead.
Yeah. So, and I thought story wise the introduction of the double was pretty cool because
Mhm.
they don't tell us up front. And we're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And then we figure it out, and I like that. I thought that was a really good plot point that I didn't see coming, and I love that when a show can surprise me in a good way. And that
Like
really,
Murder on the Orient Express, differently done.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
There were
And
so many
there's
references to things like that. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah, and there's something really cool and claustrophobic about being on a train.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy to feel like when the guards come into that room,
Mhm.
it's packed. There's nowhere to move, and so I think they played that up really well. I loved the time travel-y,
Mhm.
using the scythe, the the
The
The
side
time
of
thank
right.
you thank yes, using that to, oh, I went back and told myself, and or,
Mhm.
using that the way they did, speaking of things that are very Doctor Who like, being able to
See,
do
I'm
the
not a
time,
Doctor Who fan either. So.
yeah, time travel, and
Mhm.
as they say in Doctor Who, the very timey-wimey stuff,
yeah, and there was a lot
um
of timey-wimey stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
And they
but
did a
but
really good job with it too. I
yes.
second on my
Mhm.
second watch, I was really looking for continuity errors, and they were
Hmm.
really clever. Did a really good job to avoid them.
Hmm.
Because I mean, what we saw first, it made no sense.
Right.
I mean, the first time
Hmm.
through, you saw this timeline and it made no sense at all.
Yeah.
It was like,
Mhm.
what in the world? And then when they finally figured out, oh, we're not seeing these things in order.
Hmm.
We've got
It's
to
like,
go and get them and see them in order so we know what's really going on. And when they started doing, but then they'd miss something. And then when they went back again, they would pick up some, and they were happening simultaneously in the
yeah,
train. I mean,
yeah,
that was
out of
what was
order, and
getting confused, out of order. And some two or three things were happening at the same time that were at different times.
yeah, but they played it really well. Like the stuff where, yeah, where she's trying to shoot him, and he's, bouncing all over
Yeah.
because he's told himself. Or, yeah, wait, he's dead. Wait, she's shot him. Wait, she's kissing him. Wait,
Yeah.
But when you watch it through, when we get to the end, it
It
really
makes
makes good
sense.
sense. Yeah.
It makes sense.
So.
Yeah. But then the other thing was that I thought was interesting how they did, when we first going through the cars, we see the clock in every single
Mhm.
room. And then
So it's important.
it's important. And then you see a clock on the roof of the train. And then
Yeah.
it's like, huh? What
And
is
they even
this?
commented about that too.
They
Mhm.
did. They made a
Yeah,
comment saying,
I think,
there's a
who put the
clock
clock
on
on
the
the?
roof.
Yeah, who put the
Yeah.
clock on the roof? Yeah.
Who
And then
does put
you're
a
kind of going, okay, that clock is really important. I thought it was semi-important, but now it's like, it's really important.
So did you
I
figure that out before she went at
Well,
the
I
end?
figured I didn't know that's where what we just talked about, where it
Mhm.
was
The
hidden.
scythe, yeah.
No, I didn't figure that out, but I figured that the clock was important somehow.
Once she opened the case
Mm-hmm.
and we saw the big one in there,
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, it's one of the clock handles.
Oh, well, you're better than that did not even occur.
But I didn't know which one.
Mm.
And I was wrong too, because it ended up not being the big one.
It was
the
the
little
small
one.
one.
But she had the big one, and I was like, oh, it's one of the clock, arms.
Mhm.
But
So that would have to imply that the king knew what the scythe looked like.
mhm,
If all the clocks were presumably designed, that way.
mhm. But we don't know when.
But he was expecting it, I think, to be big.
Yeah, but I don't know when. Because we are talking time travel. That could have happened. That could have happened at any. I don't know. It's weird. And I also wondered if there was a part of me that wondered if it was the same clock in every car, that because of the time travel thing, the clock was moving.
Could be.
Mm.
But no, they didn't say that, so it could have just been in my head. But that was my first thought when they kept saying, "Wait, there's a clock here," and I'm like, "What if it's the same clock?" But apparently I was wrong.
I also enjoyed the time sprite.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pissed off Tinkerbell.
The causality going on, and I thought that was really clever. Yeah, and it was the presence of the scythe that turned her to stone.
Calcified. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Be angry. You don't want to get her angry, or it angry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
It made
angry.
me think of
It's like the
the
very
action
tiny
movies.
Hulk. You don't like him when he's angry. You don't like her when she's angry.
Yeah, so that was all good. I thought that was great. I thought I thought the guest cast was really good.
Yes.
You got a lot of good. The guy playing the general, the bad guy, he was perfectly slimy and smarmy, you know. And so I thought that was great. The lady who was both the young and the older version,
Yeah, I agree.
of the agent was fantastic. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean they find good cast members. They really do.
When they said they had to get the car,
Oh,
and Charlie says, or Liza says, no, Charlie says to Liza, "This is what we need, a fast car, and this is what you got." She says, "Well, I'm not gonna. It's gonna be. I'm gonna return it. I'm just borrowing it."
Yeah.
Then they proceed to rip the.
Gonna return it just like I found it, sort of.
yeah, sort of.
Ish.
Yeah. But I also too, from the story standpoint, I love the fact that yes, they have magic doors, but there's still a limit. Like they couldn't just magic door onto the train. That you have to. We got a car that's the closest doorway we could get to, close to the train, and so I love that those we have those, because there would be nothing for them to overcome if they could just go, we need to get on the train. Great, we open the door,
and they open the door and go on the train, but they couldn't. So
right, yeah. So they had to come up with,
which I think they had foreshadowed
mm-hmm.
in the ballet one, when they tried to get into the theater and there was magic going on and the door bounced them out.
Yeah, because
so that made it so it kind of foreshadowed that they could not use the door to get on this train because of that.
Because the time bubble was blocking.
Was magical, and so that it blocked it. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny is they didn't explain it to us. But then when I was thinking about it, I go, well, that's why they couldn't use the door, because of the magic that was going on there. Because would have made it too easy too. So
yeah. Well, plus because we get we get great scenes of them driving, of her jumping from the car onto the train. Yeah, so we wouldn't have needed all of that if they could have just pooped into the train. So
yeah. Other funny little thing before I post some of these comments that are up here. It was when they met the older lady first, and she goes, "Now, what? Where are you from?" And they said, "The library." And she goes, "Well, I don't know all these new code words." Yeah. So
that is a thing. That is now for Marsha. That is a thing that has worked through all the series. It's where are you from? Oh, we're librarians, and people just go, "Oh, okay."
Is that because librarians are considered all boring? Yeah, okay. Well,
I guess they've used it like. We get into like government installations and like, who are you? Oh, I'm the librarian. And like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Or we're from the library, or we're the librarians.
That works.
They say it with such conviction, I guess, that people buy it. But
does it work?
Yeah, and then Linda says, and the clock was always moving backwards in time, and it's time sprite.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then Linda says maybe the door doesn't work on moving objects.
That's possible. Well,
that's possible too, but I know it wouldn't work with the magic on that train.
Yeah, so. I can't remember if we've ever seen them use a door before that to get on like a ship or a plane, or I don't know. I can't.
I can't remember, but something tells
me it's been a while. It's been a while since I've.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it too.
Yeah, but in terms of a weekly series, because the doors weren't in the movies. That came about with the show, the Librarians show, which is one of those things that just, because you can do something in a 2-hour movie and talk about the travel that what he has to go through to get to wherever he's got to go. The door helps on that weekly schedule because we just need to be here. It's kind of like Star Trek. You beam down. It's just a simple, thing to not waste time and take away from the story on. It's just a convenience to get them there. So yeah.
It's
like a Stargate.
Answered our question. They used a magic door to get off a plane.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. AF Stewart. Yeah. So it's like, Thank you, AF.
Yeah,
Because-
I thought they had, but it's been a while since I've seen.
yeah, I
the
know. I thought
Librarians,
so
the
too,
first
but it's been a
series.
while.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah. So it's, I mean, basically it's a Stargate. It's very similar, in the
Yeah.
way that works. And,
It really is.
But yeah, it's
They just
it's a
probably don't
fun
have Naquita.
contrivance.
That's all.
Yeah, it's a fun contrivance, and it's also gotten them into trouble by taking them to the wrong place,
Yes.
or
Yes.
then they can't get back, or so there's fun stuff with the magic door. So
Mhm. Well, and there's always the crisis of, even though they've completed the mission, they still have to get off in time, otherwise they'll be
Yeah.
pulverized, and
Mhm.
so that I enjoyed that, and the nectar of Niobe, which I had to watch it twice for, how did he get that? And then
Yep.
Yeah, because he made it really
explain.
fast when he said what he did.
yeah, because I did notice when he leaped for it, we
Mhm.
see him touch it,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, he's done something. I didn't know what he had done, but they had said that earlier, because it is a nice bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
Yes.
If I'd had
this, we
Yes.
could. But who brings that with you? Who thinks to bring that? So I love that. Yeah, they set a lot of good stuff up,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of
That was really well done, really clever.
Yep.
So, but I have a question. Where did the time sprite go?
At the end,
I think
Yeah,
she just
where did
flew
she
off,
go?
didn't she?
It just
After
flew
she-
off. Yeah.
yeah,
After,
Yep,
after
she's just
she
back
Which
out in the world. Yeah,
means
took care of the king
maybe
command.
we'll see it again.
maybe.
It's
I mean,
possible.
yeah, because with magic back in the world, I mean, it could have gone anywhere. And,
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was a cool little bit, and the fact that after he finds it at the beginning, he could have just left there, but no, it's in his pocket.
Yeah.
But it's a good
But-
character thing.
But he
Vikram is
used
good
it
about
at
picking.
he used it at the perfect time.
Yeah, but he's also good about that, picking up. Oh, that's not something I need to leave laying around, and he's picking things up and taking them. And so yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like
Yeah.
that with the character. And again, it's all character stuff. We see him doing this. It's not just something he did just for this story. It's something we see him doing on a regular basis. This is
Yeah.
important. I'll take it. We shouldn't leave this laying around. That kind of stuff. Excuse me.
But yeah. Anybody else in the chat room want us to talk about a scene that we've forgotten that you thought was your favorite? No one else has said. I mean, Linda said what her favorite kind of was, but anybody else out there? I see we have a lot of viewers today, which I really appreciate. But
Yeah.
sometimes we'd like you to participate if you'd like to, because hey, we're here and we're talking, and sometimes we miss things. As A.F. Stewart pointed out, we couldn't remember something, and there they are telling us what we forgot.
Especially if you saw any Easter eggs.
That we did not see, because I mean, I was just too involved with the story this time.
Yeah.
It was just like,
It was a really good story.
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. Now, what do you guys think of the annex? Do you?
Well, I want one.
it's-
I just want one. That's all.
And
I like
too
that it looks cozy.
Yeah.
But is obviously intricate.
Mhm.
and not a carbon copy of the one from the last show.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That they've each kind of got their own unique take based on who's there.
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. And
Eventually I want to try to get a clean screen cap of like going up to the stairs and to use for the background, hopefully before the end of the season.
Yes, because behind you, that's the main library.
Yes. I believe
which
it. So it was as shown in one of the films before they did the series.
Before they went to the series, yeah.
Yeah, because I think when they went to the series, a lot of the stuff in the main library was like CG stuff, or they had like a very small set. Because I know the library kept having to come up with reasons not to go into the main library because they were in the annex in the first series, and which I imagine is tough every season. It's like, okay, how do we keep them out of the library this season?
Yeah, I noticed that they the setup for like the core of the stories is very similar with the addition of the map.
Mhm.
They've got the table, the study, the teleporting door, and the door to reality, and
Yeah, because the first series had the book. The clipping book would
Oh,
send
that's
them
right. That's
Yes.
right.
would send
Yes.
them on assignments or missions.
Assignments. Yeah.
And here we've got the map,
The map.
pendulum, and that points to
Hmm.
things. So yeah.
yep, no,
Which is
that's
very,
very clever.
cool. Which is very cool. So
Mhm.
We should probably also talk about the very last scene. What is
sure?
Vikram up to?
Oh, with the yes.
Yeah, I've always thought
Yeah.
that he's doing something behind everybody's back, but
I'm pretty sure it's gonna have. This is just my think that it's gonna have something to do with the lady in the painting.
Anya.
He is either. Thank you. I couldn't remember her name. He is either going to try to get back to her, although I think he is getting to the point where he realizes that can't happen. So I think he's going to try to bring her
forward.
here, which could cause problems for her descendant.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not there to have descendants, to have
Mhm.
descendants, to have, so I could see, a
And
little
what was one of
alternate
their
history.
warnings about don't change time,
Yeah.
destroy the future?
And there's reasons for that. We have seen other episodes in the other series where someone has changed things and
Yes.
has caused massive problems that have to be fixed. So yeah, I'm curious to see what his plans are. He's definitely up to something. But I also love the end too, right before that, where we see the team building stuff, the team going
Yes.
out, the
Yes.
team. Let's go get team building drinks, and and Charlie being very unused to that sort of thing, so she's a little dorky in how she's
Mhm.
talking to him because she's not used to being invited to do stuff like that.
Just a little.
Which
Just
in
a little.
itself is really kind of interesting because she is the most classically beautiful person, yet she is the one who's kind of on the outs,
Mhm.
which is interesting. The
Yeah,
others,
because knowing what we know of librarians and guardians, even just in these 3 episodes, but if you've seen the others, she's there to protect him, but she's starting to think of them as needing her protection too,
also
because they are not librarians.
No.
So that's also a big difference from the previous series. Eve was there and she had 5 librarians.
that she had to
was
protect.
the guardians for all of them.
Mhm.
Whereas here, Charlie just has 1 librarian, but these guys are important too. And they
They're
realize
more
that they are
important each time.
right. They are good. They are a good subset to the team.
Mhm.
And she is starting to realize that, and I think Vikram is too, is like, I need these people. They are my link to this modern world.
My thinking is that they are invited, and that's why they happen to be there then.
Oh, I'm sure
Oh, sure.
they were, because think about it. Look who invited, when this is your place now. You own it. I mean, she's the one who did that.
Yeah.
And
they do say that in episode 1 that you're invited. They have been that the annex, the library has invited you, but the difference is they are not librarians.
They're not librarians, yeah.
But yes, you have to be kind of invited in. But like Jenkins isn't a librarian, or Mrs. A. They're not librarians.
They're custodians.
But they're brought in. The library has brought them in for a reason, to fill a role. And so you don't have to be a librarian to be invited in. And I think in the annex, or the library has determined that these guys are important, and they can offer something to this out of time, this time displaced librarian that he needs, that he wouldn't have gotten. I think he would be a lot more lost without them. And because like I said, we see him using modern contrivances, and I think if they weren't there doing that with him, he wouldn't do that.
No,
that they're helping him. They're very important to his acclimating to the 21st century.
Yeah, Linda just said what we said. Eventually, Charlie's role will grow to protect the others as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, who protects the Guardians then? Is that?
Based based on the lore of the previous seasons,
Mm-hmm.
Guardians are pretty much Guardians don't have long lifespans generally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Guardians the Guardian is basically Secret Service for the librarian.
Mm-hmm.
The Guardian's job is to put themselves between the librarian and a bullet, a magical bullet usually.
Well, if you
And
remember, Charlie said that in her class there were 4 people.
Yes.
3 got to be guardians, and she did not.
Right.
Right.
And so you go, okay.
Yeah.
Then
And,
you
so,
go,
and that's
how many annexes are there?
yeah.
You know,
And so
that's the other thing.
yeah, and that's the thing that the series has done, because the movies, the premise of the movies was there's one. There's only one librarian, and there has only ever been. So, like in Vikram's time, he was the librarian. He wasn't he was the librarian. With the previous show, something happens which causes the library to inadvertently summon. It's kind of like to use another TV show. It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's one until that last season when all of a sudden there's 20 because they're needed. The library needed more librarians. One wasn't enough to handle this growing problem with the magic and the ley lines that we talk about here. And so the library, it kind of goes, okay, these people were candidates to be librarians, but we chose Flynn, but now we need more people, so we're going to pick some of these people that were candidates and make them librarians. And I think it's a great concept to expand that world. Because as cool as Flynn, the character of Flynn is, one guy can only be in so many places at one time. And so the show being able to have extras, I think, works wonderfully. I love the idea of expanding it out beyond just the one guy.
Yeah. Well, we need to wrap up here because we got another show that's scheduled to start in about 10 minutes. So is there any closing thoughts? Because we've just been doing a thumbs up and thumbs down about the episode. I'll go first. I mean, this was a thumbs up in my book.
Definitely.
Yep, I saw the thumbs up there, Marcia. It popped in for a minute. No, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to next week's episode. We do have another guest star from the Ark that will be joining episode 4. So that will be very nice to see him put on a new role. And I'm hoping to get him on our show to talk about his role and everything. So cross your fingers.
All right.
But just to know, on Friday, we have a guest. And, oh, golly, now I got to remember this. Pronouncing names is bad. Harun Chevovich. He plays Huey, and he was in the first episode of The Librarians. He was one of the band members that had the red streaks in his hair. So he is going to be joining us on Friday at 2 p.m., 11 a.m. Pacific time. And if you happen to be watching from Serbia, it's at 8 p.m. Serbian time.
You never know.
No, we've learned we never know. And on Sunday, we're going to have another person from the Librarians. We're going to have Sana Mitrovic, which was the director of last week's episode, the ballet episode. She is going to be joining us to talk about how she directed that episode. And if you have any questions, she's been with us twice before for the Ark. And it was a pleasure to have her on and hear all the insights of how things are put together. It's really cool. So
as well as talking about directing an episode in such an interesting location.
Yes, that's what I'm looking forward to.
How much of it were they able to do? So that's going to be a lot of fun on Sunday.
So please, I mean, you can watch, if you can't watch it live and ask questions, please watch it later. Yes, Linda, it's Dr. Marsh. I just didn't want to say who it was, but yes, it's Dr. Marsh will be in the episode of the Librarians, the next chapter, episode 4. But I said he's great, and you can recognize him very easily too. So, but
I'm like
Sounds like somebody's already seen the episode.
yeah, shameful. Actually, it has been out. Episode 4 is out.
Yeah,
They're
it actually
available
is.
they're available on demand on cable networks that have TNT and support TNT on demand. Some networks like Michael's don't have commercials. Some networks like mine do.
Yeah, so I have seen it, but as I said, it's like it wasn't the release, and TNT has asked us not to talk about. Yeah, Linda says I actually found it by accident. Actually, so did I. But TNT has asked us not to talk about future episodes that have not been aired, which we understood exactly from when we were doing the arc.
Definitely.
So definitely, especially with our guest next week, I believe he's in at least one more episode later in the series. And so we are only going to be talking about his episode number 1, where he was in that one. So just so you know, but a lot of stuff that was in that thing that was really cool too. So, so on behalf of NDB Media, Bobby, Marcia, and Greg, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.